Hey guys, we are live at the Ag Center. Well, not live right now, but we were at one point live at the Ag Center here, and we're going to talk to Steve a little bit today. These are his goats that we've got over here, the dairy goats at the Ag Center, and he's just going to go through some basic background information for us, and you guys will get to see a few things, and then we'll check them out more in person at some point here also. So, Steve, what do we know about dairy goats?
Well, we're going to start off today with Toggenburgs, and this whole group is our pure Toggenburg, with the exception of the one here on the right. And she is a Toggenburg Alpine, and the Toggenburgs originated out of the Swiss Alps, and one way you can kind of tell them is their distinct markings. They have white facial stripes and 4 white feet for the most part, and extra long hair. And I think that's simply because they originated out of the Swiss Alps, so they can tolerate the extra cold weather. The dark one is a half Toggenburg, half French Alpine, and I'll show you a French Alpine doe later. We'll just move down here. Some of the other breeds are Nubians, and Nubians are real distinct. They have real long pendulous ears. There's 2 of them in here. It's actually a pair of twins, and they're real easy to pick out. Nemo, come on.
So by pendulous ears, guys, we mean really long floppy ears, like
ears,
that
yes.
one right there.
Yep.
Check that out.
Yep. And then his sister is looking the other direction.
So by weather, so we've talked about the sexes and the different species of animals we've looked at so far. So same rules apply with the goats here. So weather would be a castrated male or a male we cannot use for breeding. So a buck or a billy would be a male that we can use for breeding. A doe, or sometimes we'll say nanny, would be a female. Okay.
Okay, and then this is the Alpine. I said I would mention Alpines. She's 9 years old. She was actually grand champion at Iowa State Fair this year in the 4-H show. And she's a pure Alpine, or some people refer to them as French Alpines. They have a little bit different color markings. The one walking away is an Alpine also. Some of them could be like black and tan. And then the Sonnens are usually pure white. The doe there is actually a Sonnen Toggenburg, but they are one of a few species of livestock that when you cross them with something of color, you still get white. They're just that pure. She's actually half Sonnen, half Toggenburg. She is. The one closest to us here is a La Mancha. They have the real short ears, and that's probably the most common asked question. Why did you cut their ears off? Well, we didn't. They were born that way, and they're the results of crossing American and Spanish goats. They are. Other breeds I didn't mention are Oberhausleys, and actually I have some Oberhausleys here. They're actually outside. They are, but they are like tan with black stripe down the back usually, and 4 black feet. So actually there's 6 major breeds, or I call them large breeds: Alpines, Oberhausleys, La Manchas, Sonnens, Nubians, and Toggenburgs. And then the miniatures, the miniature dairy goat breed is a Nigerian dwarf. They are, and actually I don't have any here right now. They're actually all over at Buffalo at the petting zoo. I have 4 moms over there with 11 babies.
So Steve, you got quite a few goats running around here, lots of different breeds. What's the primary purpose that you keep these goats here for?
Well, I think it's neat to give kids an experience to show if they want to, so I lease them, and then I'm passionate about a goat. I was raised on goat's milk. My parents got a goat and actually milked it for me when I was an infant because I wasn't lactase tolerant. It's kind of a hereditary thing with us. My grandkids were raised on goat's milk also, and my nieces and nephews, but as we grow older we outgrow it, so it's not an issue. We can drink cow's milk later on.
So dairy goats, guys, are primarily used for milking purposes compared to our meat type goats, or what we would typically call our boar goats, are basically used for meat. So Steve, on average, roughly how much does a goat produce for milk?
I think a gallon a day is a really good average. The most I've had a goat milk has been 2.5 gallons, and actually it was a La Mancha doe I had that when I first moved over here, and but she's kind of an exception to the rule. But I think a gallon average, especially in the large commercial dairy, if they milk a gallon or more, which is like 8.6 pounds or more. I've got friends out at Kelowna that commercially milk, and I've seen in the summer when everything was going really good for them, they had like a 10-pound average on about 350 does, but that's really pushing it. Not everybody can do that.
So we use goat milk for a lot of different things. So some people will drink it. A lot of commercial dairies will go that route. It can be used for, a lot of people make goat milk soap. Some people make it into cheese. It makes an awesome cheese because of the high fat content. It gives it a lot of flavor. Steve, what are some of the other things you've seen people maybe using some goat milk for?
Oh, used it for bottle calves or orphan lambs or whatever. I freeze quite a bit each year. My surplus double filter it. Have 4 to 6 families get it to make goat milk soap primarily.
So we've looked at lots of different breeds of animals, lots of different kinds. One of the things that we keep talking about too is what are some of the different things that these guys eat. Now one of the things that a lot of our students think is they've seen on TV shows, things like that, goats running around eating tin cans. Is that true?
No, that's not true. They'll lick the insides out, and no, they cannot digest a metal can. They'll lick the inside contents out and probably chew the paper off from it.
So no, guys, it is not true. Goats do not eat tin cans, just for the record. Kind of like we said, pigs aren't pink, brown cows don't make chocolate milk, goats do not eat tin cans either. I'm sorry if I just crushed your childhood dreams, okay? So Steve, what do these goats actually eat?
Here I use round bales primarily every chance I can outside for hay, and then I have kind of in the winter feed something a little different, usually some whole fuzzy cotton seeds, some cracked corn, and I really haven't went to that yet. They're still on like about a 14-15% commercial mix. It's actually a calf starter. It's corn and oats, and it actually has a little pellet in it, but no medication. The young ones, they are on a medicated pellet from as soon as they start eating. The medication is usually Rumensin, and it's for coccidiosis, which is like bloody diarrhea, bloody scours.
Kind of nasty stuff.
Yep.
Animals get sick just like humans get sick, only sometimes they get it worse, because a lot of times a sick animal is a dead animal, unfortunately. What other things? Okay, so this, if we look at this goat here, I'm sure we'd get lots of questions here. You guys see these little beady things down here? Ah, it's gonna eat my camera. On their neck. What are those, Steve?
Those are wattles, and they actually have researched it, and they serve absolutely no purpose. I did not raise her. She was an adult when I bought her, but I have taken babies when they were born with them and simply take side cutters and cut them off because they actually serve no purpose. I've had twins born. One would be born with them and one would be born without. The only reason about cutting them off is if you have like bottle kids in a pen and it gets time for them to nurse and they get restless, and one of the ones in the pen has the wattles, they'll simply go up and suck on them like a pacifier, and they don't get anything from it. It just keeps them occupied.
So guys, this one here that's hopping up saying hello, well, see, she doesn't have much for ears, so again, we got La Mancha here.
Yep.
She wants my camera. They don't eat tin cans, they might eat cameras, I don't know. Better watch out. Watch our backs here. One of the common things you guys do when you come over and get to see these things in person, everybody wants to reach out and pet. Now, even though you can reach in and pet these things pretty good, you have to keep in mind they're animals, they're curious, they like to chew on things. And so just be careful if you stick your fingers in here. Goats are very curious animals, and they love to explore the world around them by chewing on stuff. So they will actually chew on the end of your finger, and yes, there are teeth in there. And yes, those teeth can sometimes hurt if you are not being careful. The teeth in the front of their mouth don't really do a whole lot as a whole, but the molars in the back of their mouth, they're actually pretty sharp. So you don't want to get your fingers in the back of their mouth. What else do we need to know about these things, Steve?
No. They're quite interesting to me. They are, and they're very clever. And that I mean by doing things they shouldn't do. Like sometimes when I come to chore, they'll simply grab my shorts and pull them down. They'll chew on my shoelaces. I mean, they're also good at escaping. So you need to have like a really good fence if you have them. And I have all dairy goats here with the exception of about 5 head, actually meat goats, and they're boar crossed, and they actually have a lot of color. They're not the traditional boars have usually a red head and a white body, but I have one here that's actually half boar, half alpine. She's solid black, and then I have 2 more that have quite a bit of color, and then I have a couple adults that are colored also. So it's not that I'm switching from dairy goats to meat goats. I just want a few on the side and makes it a little easier conversation when I talk to my son because he actually has all meat goats. Yes, actually all bull goats.
I don't know with the video if I can zoom out far enough, but there's a goat on top of the shed back here. I don't know if I'm going to get back there. I don't know if I'll get back there in time for you guys to see it, but like he was saying, goats are extremely curious animals. They're very playful animals. I don't know if you guys, there you can see it a little bit. She's standing on top of the house. Whoop, there she goes. But goats are pretty fun, so if you want an animal that's got a lot of pep and a lot of spunk and a lot of spirit, grab a goat. If you want an animal that's going to stay in and behave perfectly all the time, do not get a goat. There's a common saying that goes, if you've got a fence that you can throw water through, goats can get through it. So if you're trying to just keep something in your yard and make it look all cute, maybe go with a small one, but other than that, you're going to have a harder time probably keeping them in. Sheep are kind of a little bit the same way. So as you can see, they come in lots of shapes, lots of sizes, colors. We've got anywhere from not much of ears to long floppy ears to skinny pointy ears.
Actually, I mentioned Oberhauser. There's an Oberhauser kid right there across. It's got the 4 black feet, the black tail, the black stripe down its back, and that's one that stood up. There's actually 2 right there.
Right there.
Yeah, one's straight open, the other one's half open.
So lots of colors, shapes, and sizes. Lots of different things we can do with them. These guys, like we said, are pretty much all dairy goats now. A prime way to tell kind of your dairy goats and meat goats apart. Meat goats are going to be, as a whole, a lot stouter and wider, kind of stockier. So some of you guys will say, oh, they look like little dogs. Kind of sometimes. It depends on what, how stocky and how heavy muscled they are. These guys are going to be a little bit longer, a little skinnier, a little bonier looking. And even though, like you guys would probably point out, that we can see the backbones on a lot of these guys, sometimes in some cases maybe a rib here or there, these guys are definitely not starving. They're plenty well fed. Steve does a good job really taking care of these things. And so they have plenty to eat. The reason they're bony is kind of like our dairy cattle. The more energy they put into making milk, the better. If they've got a lot of extra fat built up on them, they're probably not milking very good, and they're probably not actually fulfilling their intended purpose. So these things are supposed to look a little skinny and bony. That's just the way that they're designed, and that's just the way that they are. So if you see that, you don't need to worry about anything here being starved or anything like that.
Actually, that solid black one over there is half boar, half alpine. They come up and looked at you. She was Elena Lee's, and I bought it from her.
So she's at one of my fingers, right above her head right now.
Yep. She's half dairy, half meat.
So if we look around, you can see her ears are a little funkier looking. A lot of times boar goats, their ears will kind of stick out more to the side, and they've got floppier ears. Our meat type goats do.
I call them airplane ears. The boar would be long, floppy like a Nubian, and the alpine would be a straight, erect ear.
Yep.
Yep.
So lots of ear shapes, lots of different color shapes and sizes. Thank you, Steve, for giving us a little information about the goats, and I'm sure you guys will probably see him out here at some point, kind of helping take care of these things, or he'll be in and out while we're here for class. But that's a little bit of information on some dairy goats, and as always, if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time.